What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to talk about a very, very big test that's coming for tomorrow and why it still suggests the market has some more upside potential if a particular level holds. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposit $25,000 or more and you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon in just about 10 days. Anyways, now let's talk about the charts and the market. So far, we had a very, very interesting day. So first with SPY did is it pumped a little bit in the daytime, which is what we were talking about. That I mentioned to you all that there might be a dip coming. The dip came, but instead of holding these levels, we mentioned that we had that very important support at the 20 EMA, and SPY managed to reclaim it. We didn't just reclaim it, we actually bounced off of this. So far, we're still trying to base here. And because we held support so nicely, this does suggest that there could be more upside coming again, especially as we approach tomorrow. So far, SPY is doing a good job at holding up. There should be a bounce coming tomorrow so long as we don't lose the support. I'm going to break down what the level is and also do an analysis of the other tickers. But let me first go over some data just real quick. Please remember that tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Now, at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Harker from the Fed giving a speech, not to mention the Richmond Fed manufacturing numbers for the manufacturing index, manufacturing shipments, and the Fed services revenues data all coming out. Watch and see how much volatility there is about 30 minutes after market open, not to mention the fact that we have our bill auction at 11:30 a.m. Besides that, there's not really a whole lot else that's coming out for Tuesday. Everything else is going to be quite minor. Now, for Wednesday, we have basically Bowman giving a speech and also very, very minor data. So, most of the data for the next 2 days is going to be quite minor. But there's another factor that could affect the markets a little bit more, and that's going to be earnings. Now, for tomorrow, being Tuesday, we have Verizon, GM, and 3M all announcing their earnings. So, get ready for this. Not to mention the fact that for Wednesday, which is going to be 2 days from now, we have Boeing, AT&T, and Coca-Cola announcing their earnings in the morning. Then we have Tesla and IBM announcing their earnings after market close. So Tesla's going to be a big one for the week. I can't wait to see what they announce. But besides that, that's all we're basically looking out for. Now, we also have about a 86.8% chance that the Fed gives us a 50 basis point cut. We'll see how this shifts as we're just about a little bit over 2 weeks away from FOMC. So basically, we have the election coming up, then we have FOMC. So it's going to be very important. Besides that, there's not really a whole lot else that's coming out, at least for the markets, for the next couple of days. This gives the market more leeway, more room to do what it wants to do. So now let's talk about SPY and the broader markets. So what's happening with the charts? Let me just explain this very, very simply again. We love to ride our EMAs. SPY absolutely loves to do that. Look back in September, we were riding and bouncing off our 20 EMA again. Again, we're just riding the EMAs to the upper direction. Then we eventually lost our 20 EMA, and the next support was closer to the 50 EMA, a little bit below that. So we did dip below it only to get bought back up again and again and again. And eventually we went back to square one, getting bought back above our key EMAs. So this green line right here is the 20 EMA. We came very close to this, then we bounced, came close to it, then we bounced. We hit this and bounced, hit it again and bounced. And then today we actually dipped a little bit below it only to bounce back up. So you could see how this is acting like a trampoline. We're just touching this, we're bouncing off of it again and again and again. And SPY is holding this very, very nicely. So if you want to turn into a bear, okay, the first thing we have to do is close below this EMA. We could dip below it, but only to get bought back up. So far, that's what's happening. If we lose 582.4, the 20 EMA, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to 580. If that fails us, we're looking for 578 as our next support. We also have this resistance up here around this 584.6 area. So we'll see if we get a nice bounce off up to there or not. So watch to see how we end up reacting. Now, in my opinion, we're range bound going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. We're just in a range. So this chart is still suggesting that upside becomes a stronger possibility because we're holding this support. Also, when you look at, for instance, the daily time frame on SPY, you'll see we're still getting bought back up very nicely. We're still making higher lows. So despite the way the candlestick looks, we're actually holding up quite well. And we look pretty strong on the daily, and the weekly is still decent as well. So what do I think is going to happen? In my personal opinion, I think that the odds are favoring this might try to go up to all-time highs again because we're holding our key support. As long as we don't lose 582.4, I favor the uppers direction as the most likely case. But always watch your levels just to be safe. So if 582.4 breaks, we're looking for 580. As long as we're above that, we favor a pushback up towards a little bit under 585. I think what's going to happen tomorrow is when we open in the morning, there's going to be a push again to about 585. This 585 zone is very tough resistance though, so we might not just break through it very easily. We'll see if we break it or not. We should be pushing up here. We'll consolidate a bit, maybe dip back down, just continue to hold up. But so far, it looks like there's going to be an attempt to go back up to all-time highs all over again, looking at the way the chart looks right now. For ES, we're trading sideways, but I do have some good news for the bulls, okay? We held our 20 EMA. So today we dipped all the way down to our 50 EMA, then we got bought right back up. So it kind of slingshotted right back up. So as long as we don't lose 58.94, as long as that does not fail us, this is favoring upside. If we do lose 58.94, we're looking for a move back down to 58.80 and eventually 58.71. If we hold 58.93, we're looking for a bounce back up for this resistance at 5,900 flat. Now, 5,900 flat breaks, we're looking for the all-time high to be tested all over again on ES. So because we're holding support and we're above our 20 EMA, the odds favor is kind of like dipping, then trying to rebound and making an attempt to get back above the 5,900 area as the most likely case. I find that to be very, very probable, so we'll have to see how things end up going. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. For Nvidia, Nvidia is trying to hold its 20 EMA. Now, check this out, guys. Nvidia did dip all the way down to the 50 EMA around 128. Then it got a very, very nice looking pump back up. We dipped back down to our 20 EMA at 136. And then we got a nice push right back up. So there's a lot of momentum. I think this could continue going into tomorrow as long as we don't lose 142. If 142 fails us tomorrow, we're looking for a move back down to 140. As long as we're above, we remain more bullish as buyers are continuing to step in. Just know there is a risk involved in Nvidia because the last time we hit 140, we did reject, which means we're at some tough resistance, which is why it's not that easy for Nvidia to just break these levels. You know, it kind of consolidates for some time, then slowly pushes up, consolidates and pushes up, but it still looks more bullish. There's nothing bearish about this chart yet. So I think we could be approaching 145. If that breaks, we'll just continue this rally and we could get even closer to 150. So it remains bullish. We'll see if you reject off those key resistance areas, but we're doing a very, very good job thus far. For Bitcoin had a little bit of a dip back down to the 50 EMA at 67,009. Instead of losing that and turning really bearish to start dipping to 66,000, we actually held 66,900 and we got a nice bounce. So it might be looking for the 20 EMA 68,000 flats tomorrow morning. We'll see if that breaks. If that's the case, we're going even higher. So it looks like Bitcoin's trying to rebound. Look for a test of 68,000 very soon. We'll see how it reacts, but there is some upside potential. For Tesla, we're waiting for earnings to make a much bigger move. Earnings comes out on Wednesday after the market closes. Now, just note, we have 215 as support and 220 as resistance. We're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, kind of stuck in the middle, but there is potential for this to try to break past 221 if we break that resistance. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But overall, we're doing a very good job on Tesla at holding up. I think it might attempt to consolidate for the time being, be range bound between 215 and 220. We got some negative news involving Ford today because of the fact that they are basically telling their owners, the car owners, to kind of sway away from the Tesla superchargers. They were saying that, but it's a-okay because the main move is going to be after earnings. So I expect some more sideways price action, and we'll see what happens after earnings comes out. For NQ, we're holding support very nicely, trying to uptrend. If we lose 20,461, we're looking for 20,400. As long as we hold this, we're going to likely attempt to push higher for the 20,600 area. So what's good about NQ is the fact that we're holding support nicely. Yes, we had a high here. We came down, with a lower high, came down. We have a lower high that's still being made, but we'll see if we try to break the high. Because what's good is Nvidia's pumping. It's helping this thing hold up, and it looks a little bit more bullish again. So NQ looks like it might temporarily push a little higher for 20,600 tomorrow morning. And we'll see if we get a rejection off that resistance or not. But look for a little bit more upside. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. Essentially, we're holding support very nicely. We have support to watch for around 493. If that fails us, we're looking for 491, the 50 EMA. And as long as we hold above these supports, we're looking for a bigger push back up for 497. My gut tells me we might dip a little bit before we try to continue to push. We have this imbalance up here, which could take us even higher. So far, the QQQ remains a little bit more bullish. So this may attempt to push even higher, back up closer to the 500 area, and the chart remains bullish nonetheless. So I want to make that very clear. So far, the bulls are the ones who have the bigger edge. For Aapl, Apple's looking bullish, but I do want to call out my concern. 237 is a tough resistance. Every time we hit this, we are rejecting. It's very, very hard for it to hold above that. So yes, I think Aapl looks bullish. It could try to push a little higher so long as we don't lose 235. If 235 fails us, we come back down to 233.7. That's where our 20 EMA is. But overall, it looks like 237 is coming first. So tomorrow morning, I think Apple's going to push for 237 to 237.5, a little bit higher, and we'll see how it ends up reacting. Will we get a rejection or not? It is a tough resistance. So I do want to warn you to be a little bit more careful with the way Apple is moving. All right. So that's it for the main ones I typically go over. Now I'm going to be going through a speed run for the rest of these. So please bear with me in case I go a little bit fast. So for Netflix, I called out that we're going to be looking for a target of about 770 to 775 in my video from yesterday. That's where Netflix has gone to. The issue with Netflix is we already ran so much to these highs that's going to be at a tough resistance. It is due for a bit of a pullback, so if we can't crack past 775, there might be a dip back down towards the 760 area. So just keep that in mind, guys. We might see a small dip in Netflix. So we'll see how things end up going. But I just wanted to make it very clear there might be a small dip on Netflix, so be very careful when that comes out. For CELH, there's a bit of a downtrend right here for Celsius. And we're still rejecting here. So I mentioned this yesterday that this thing has the lower high being made. So tomorrow it's going to try to rebound for 32.75 to 33 for a small push. If it rejects, so we're looking for a bigger dump back down towards 31.6. So as of right now, we have lower highs being made. We had a high here, we came down. We had a lower high, we came down. We had a lower high. It might try to push it for 32.75 to 33, then reject and start dipping lower. So watch to see if that ends up being the case. We have this imbalance down here, so I think there's a good chance that that's going to fill. So we'll see how things end up going. For Palantir, Palantir is once again trying to form a nice uptrend right here. We're looking for 42.47 as our support. If we hold this, we're going to be looking for a rebound back up towards 43.5. And if we lose this, we're going to be looking for a dip back down towards 42 flat and eventually 41.5. I think we're holding our 20 EMA. As long as 42.5 holds, we're looking for a push back up to 43.5. I see a potential cup forming on Palantir, so it's going to attempt to most likely go higher. As long as we don't lose 42.5, I favor the upside direction. For Supermicro, we're just range bound right now. We like to go back and forth between 46.8 and then 47.8, or I'm sorry, 46.8 and 50. So I think we're going to likely remain range bound. As long as we don't lose 46.8, this chart might try to rebound for 49 plus and eventually get closer to 50. As of right now, we look like we're just getting sandwiched between these EMAs. As long as 46.8 does not break, we look a little bit more bullish, could get closer to 50. Rivian is just trading flat. It's sandwiched between 10 and 10.13, our 20 EMA, which is resistance. I think we're just going to trade sideways, kind of consolidate. We're waiting for Tesla's earnings. Not really much is going on with it for the time being. For SoFi, we look more bullish, especially after the bank earnings have been coming out quite good. As long as we don't lose 10, I think this is favoring upside. Look for a test of 10.5 tomorrow. If that breaks, we're looking for 10.8 as our next target. Might be a small push to the upside as it's looking a little bit more bullish. For the IWM, this is still looking kind of weak, but it depends if we can reclaim 222 or not. If 222 is reclaimed, we're looking for a bounce tomorrow for 223.9. If we don't reclaim that, we could be dipping back down to 220. So it depends on 222. Hold above that tomorrow morning for at least an hour, and I think we rebound. If not, we're going to be dumping even lower. It looks a little bit weak right now, but it's barely at 221.99 in the after hours. So it depends on 222. Can we reclaim it or not? That's going to be pivotal for tomorrow. There's a slight bullish divergence on AMD. Now, instead of dipping and losing 155, it's actually trying to rebound. We have 158 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for the 160 area. If this rejects, we're looking for a dip back down towards 153. If anything, there's a slight downtrend that's being respected. So if 155 fails us, we're looking for a dip to fill that gap to 150. But overall, we're doing a good job at holding up. For ARM is making lower highs right over here, continuing to dip. We have 153 as resistance and 150 as our support, going back and forth and back and forth. If this rejects, we're going to be dipping back down to 150. I think we're just going to consolidate for now in this range. We might push a little bit higher for 154 to fill this wick, and then might come back down and continue to consolidate. I think that Nvidia is helping this. That's why it's trying to push just a little bit. For Coinbase, look a little bit in the middle right now. We came down to about 208, a little bit above my target of 206. I think we're just going to consolidate. We could attempt to push it for 217.5, but then I think there's going to be a lot of sideways price action. So look for a lot of consolidation between 210 and 215, and I'm just seeing some sideways price action for now. Amzn dumped only to get bought back up. So it dipped a little bit only to see buyers step in. So it looks like they're going to attempt to push this thing higher tomorrow because we're making higher lows here. I mentioned there's going to be a dip coming to Amzn, and it came only for the market to get bought back up. So I think Amazon's going to be pushing tomorrow morning as long as we don't lose 188 and 187.2. As long as those supports don't break, especially 188, I favor 190 is coming, then eventually 190, 190.5 ish around there. So look for a little bit more upside as time goes on. For Meta, I just want to mention that we have 579.7 as our resistance, and then we have support right here at 575. We have a nice falling wedge that's forming on Meta. If we were to lose 572, I'd be a little bit more concerned. If we manage to get and hold above 575 tomorrow, we're going back up to at least 580, I think. And I think that my prediction would be that this wedge is going to play out. We're going to be looking for a pushback up to 580. So we had this nice little dip on Meta. We came down to my target almost exactly. I called out 570. Then, as mentioned, we could get closer to 568 as my targets. We came very close. We did hit my 570 target almost exactly. Now we have potential to bounce if we hold above 575 tomorrow. We're looking for that rebound. For Microsoft, we're trying to push higher as long as we don't lose 418. We're looking for a pushback up to 420, then eventually 421. So this has some more upside potential. For Google, we dipped a bit. We're looking a little bit more bullish on the 4 hour. This might be looking for 166 to fill this imbalance. So I favor upside a little bit more. For DJT, we look a little bit more bullish. We could be looking for an attempt to get up to 32.5. For the VIX, we dipped quite a bit. We actually haven't fully filled this gap. So that means the VIX may pop a bit and start dipping lower towards the lower 18s, which suggests that the market has a little bit more upside, which is going to drag the VIX lower. That's going to be one of the most likely cases, in my personal opinion. For something else out there, I just want to mention we also have the 10-year Treasury yield, which is pushing up for now. This could be impacted by the Fed speakers. As of right now, it's pushing thanks to the Fed speakers. The dollar remains bullish, but it's not really affecting the market yet. So maybe there's going to be a delayed reaction if the market gets some kind of sell-off. So what is my view of the markets? SPY still technically has a rising wedge, okay? So that suggests there's going to be downside coming in the future. There's also a triple bearish divergence. This suggests there's going to be a big rug pull coming, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen in as early as November, if not by early next year. We'll have to wait and see. We haven't lost our critical support to turn bearish yet. We're not bearish yet. We haven't lost our key, 50 EMA or the 20 EMA. We're still holding support, so the charts remain bullish for the time being. Watch the levels I called out, and I just wanted to make that very, very clear for everyone out there. And just to clarify for SPY, one more thing before I conclude the video. If you want to turn to a bear, we have to at least lose 578. That's where the lower trend line is, not to mention our 50 EMA. We haven't lost it yet, so I can't turn to bearish. I do want to call out the VIX has that gap in the 36s, and the daily chart of SPY, it still has a lot of gaps. Last time I checked it, I know there was a gap somewhere here in the 560s. I think like right here at 563, we have a gap. There's another gap right here around 559. I think there's a third gap down in the 530s. So at least the 550s will likely be coming again one day. Is it going to be next month? Is it going to be after the election? Is it going to be early next year? I don't truly know, guys. I don't know yet. I think that they're holding the markets up artificially as we get closer to the election. I think that there's manipulation that's going on right now. But like I said before, sometimes you have to adjust your analysis because the market could do completely unpredictable things. It's very hard to predict what this market will do with all the nuances and all the manipulation that goes on in the options chain and other factors like that. So right now we're bullish. The market is still bullish. It's trying to make higher highs and higher lows. It could turn bearish if we lose key supports and if we get the catalyst. We don't have it yet, so we can't turn to bearish yet. So be very patient and be very careful with the way you short the markets. Okay? So with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll be back tomorrow morning before the market opens to give you guys another update. And by tomorrow, I'm talking about tomorrow morning in the USA. I'm in America. I live in the West Coast, but the times I use are for the East Coast for New York time, for those who are around the world who have questions. So all my videos are going to be based off New York Standard Time. That's very important because, it's Eastern Standard Time, the same time that New York uses in the stock market. That's why I use it. Okay, so I just want to clarify that. Anyways, that is it for my analysis and my data. I want to say I really appreciate you guys one more time for listening. I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning before the market opens. Thank you for listening, and peace out.